Hej och välkomna till Olja för blåbär. Nu befinner jag mig i Silicon Valley i Kalifornien, där jag under 3 dagar ska följa konferensen Podcar City 9, som är den 9:e konferensen som handlar om så kallade Personal Rapid Transports. Och den första konferensen hölls 2007 i Sverige. Det här är den 4:e konferensen som hålls i USA, och det har alltså hållits 4 stycken i Sverige och även en i Berlin. Och under de här dagarna är det tänkt att vi ska intervjua olika personer som är involverade i så kallade PRT-systemet, eller Personal Rapid Transports som det kallas, som är en typ av masskommunikation för ett speciellt typ av transportmedel för framtiden, kan man säga.
About 10 years at the Federal Transit Administration of the U.S. Department of Transportation, and there I sat in an office of research and mobility innovation. Luckily, we have the director of mobility innovation here today who will follow me. He'll talk about his perspective and initiatives that are going on inside U.S. DOT. But when I was looking at mobility and multimodalism. And even as a young boy, I was always looking towards the future and on how we can have transportation systems that meet the needs of individual users. Lucky enough, I was able to stumble across Krister and many of the folks here in the room today to have that dialogue and let me at least encourage my thought on how these transportation systems can evolve. That being said, I couldn't say I have to mention my new role here at Noblis. We do a support DOT. Our main client is the Joint Program Office of Intelligent Transportation Systems. That's a really nice, unique office that works cross-cutting at the U.S. DOT, collaborating with the Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway, on various different types of programs, from accessibility programs and initiatives. You'll hear about a program called Mobility on Demand that we help conceive, develop, and try to implement. And so I wanted to give a shout out to the US DOT. Without their support, I certainly wouldn't be here. So I thought, okay, we're in California. How do we inspire? What brings people together? And I guess Bob Marley came to my mind. But more importantly, I think one of his songs, the line goes something like, "In this great future, you can't forget your past." And I think that's what's important for Podcars, or folks thinking about transportation going in the future. It's an opportunity to create, to look for solutions to mistakes that we might have made in the past or are currently making, and those flow from anything from how we deal with accessibility, equity issues, how are we incorporating energy, our personal space, our natural environment, and design. And I think what the little part that I did with the organizing committee is I really tried to import the idea that we need to expand this conversation outside of the technology. Technology going to impact our lives in the future. And I think if you're stuck in a conversation around Podcars, let's think about that. How will it affect accessibility? How will it affect our natural environment? And so hopefully a little Bob Marley in the background will help you. So back on what I do on a day-to-day basis in supporting US DOT and just being a transportation geek in general, we know that the transportation ecosystem is changing. One thing I worked on before leaving US DOT was a report that came out, I guess was it earlier this year, I believe, Beyond Traffic 2045. The website is right here, and I would encourage everyone to engage in that conversation. It was a great initiative by Secretary Fox here in the U.S. to really go out and try to document what's going on, looking at population growth, looking at some of the trends that we notice, and trying to put that into a report to really encourage a dialogue, not only within the Beltway of Washington D.C., but to get the population in the U.S. involved. And I think there would be probably some good anecdotes and things for international aspects as well. But I just wanted to key on some of the, or talk about some of the key findings of not only this Grow America, or not only the Beyond Traffic 45, but other programs that we work on at Noblis, some of the key factors that I think that are really important in understanding and addressing when we talk about, Podcars and where the transportation environment is going in the future. And one of that is just the growing mobility demands, or the demand and choice that we all need and want. Just to kind of, graze over them, aging Americans, millennials, all travelers, especially in the U.S. we have a lot of veterans coming back with disabilities. We have all travelers of all kinds of disability, cognitive, physical, and these folks are being, not as welcomed to the rest of the economy, the rest of our society, and with mobility, we want to try to bridge those gaps. Next, I've been calling it the Wild Wild West. I think you're going to hear from some great folks later on throughout the next 2 days, but you have a Google search engine. We all know about their Podcar. I mean, they're called. Some people call that a Podcar. I'm sure that's a big discussion we're going to have here this week. We have rental cars, purchasing, car sharing. Ford, an automaker, is developing a foldable electric bike, and the list goes on and on. Amazon, notices the impact that transit is making on people's lives, and looking at transit as a way to deliver packages. So where does Podcar fit into that? And I think my next point is going to be that that these things need to be integrated. They can't be thought about in silos. And what I wanted to do in my scenarios is kind of walk through some of that. But one little piece of inspiration I just thought I'd put in there is something that I've always encouraged me when I'm working in transit is that a developed country is not a place where the poor have cars, it's where the rich use public transportation. And so that's my scenario, that's my vision for the future, is that we have a mobility system of systems that provide you choice and opportunity that's integrated. And so this is kind of a little game that we talked about with the organizers. We wanted to do quick little scenarios. I'm going to provide 4 little scenarios, just food for thought. Hopefully they're going to be build on one another, based on progressive policies and technologies that might come online, as we develop over the next 15, 30 years. We want to kind of see what your opinion is. Where do you think that we're headed? And then at the end of the Podcar conference, in the last panel, we'll show these 4 scenarios again and say, hey, did we change your mind? Are we going backwards? Are we going forward? Did you stay the same? And so let's just go over them real quick. We kind of see the first scenario as being status quo. There's continued congestion, failing infrastructure, some disjointed policies, and financial challenges persist, and you pretty much are going to get what we have today. Scenario 2, maybe see some types of integrated, transit inside a multimodal context. You start to see integrated payment systems where, maybe your Starbucks card can work on your Metro, vice versa. Maybe there's some gamification involved that provide you some incentives to go to ride public transportation. You start to see, a realization that bike sharing and transit go hand in hand. But you also see, the advent of new microtransit organizations. You see the transportation network corporations coming online. How are these engaged? Are these, are they solving the equity issue? Are they solving the mobility issue for all? And so some integration, perhaps not where we want to be. And then maybe some transit prioritization on our infrastructure, but without progressive policies, that may not happen. Scenario 3, start to become a little bit more hopeful. There's demand response transit for all folks with all different types of disabilities. There's probably more smart transportation, more integration with your personal your personal brain, and lets you know when you need to be somewhere and what mode that is going to be more efficient for you. Maybe you're gaining your neighbor and you want to use less carbon than he or she is to get to work that day, or maybe you need to go drop your child off at work with your vehicle, but then you want to park that vehicle and go to work and maybe ride your bike back. I don't know. So situational mobility is the way that I look at it, and then real full infrastructure optimization. Maybe there is VRT on lanes. Maybe the VRT is a way to integrate with the Podcar system, etc. So that's scenario 3. Scenario 4, is where my brain usually is. I want to get out in the morning and know that I can take 5 different modes to do what I want. There's vehicle automation. Perhaps I call my A-taxi, my automated taxi that picks me up. Maybe it already knows that my friend Sandy and I are going to the same destination. It has already picked her up and we're going to the same destination, so reducing our energy impact, whether it be electric or not. And we see more progressive land use designs. We're focusing in on the human being. We see more green space in our urban areas. But there's ubiquitous data that reads us, it knows what we want to do, anticipates our needs, anticipates what traffic may look like, how much energy a particular mode may need to help utilize those resources more efficiently. But overall, these services are integrated. One is not looked prioritized over the other, but that they all work cohesively in one transportation ecosystem.